Good evening, and you're very welcome to Around the Grounds here at Finalwhistle.ie on this Saturday night, a night filled with action from the Women's National League, where we have action from four games. Well, realistically, it came down to just three games in the end. Of course, it was meant to be five games in the end. It got reduced to four, but only three took place. Now, first of all, we will go to Diarmuid Park, where Bohemians took on Athlone. Both sides, of course, didn't pick up wins in their opening day of fixtures, so both sides were hoping to pick up the 3 points tonight. Watching that for us was our reporter Sean Comer.
Dermot, this game was delayed for about 15 minutes before kickoff because of a faulty net, which I think was brought on by the weather, which was brutal all afternoon and actually got worse as the game went on. That faulty net was not the only effect that the weather would have on this game. It seemed to have a big effect on the first goal in the 21st minute when Lisa Murphy launched a free from, I think, just inside her own half. And it caused the Athlone keeper, Niamh Coombs, to pedal backwards. She tipped it onto the bar and the ball fell to Erica Burke in the box and she slotted away. Good finish, to be fair to her, to make it 1-0. But I think the wind had a big part to play because anytime Niamh Coombs was kicking the ball out in that first half, it got caught in the air at least 4 times. Athlone started to apply some pressure at the end of the half. It looked like Dana Sheriff was looking dangerous. She had a good game last week too against Wexford. And eventually she played a big part in the goal. She picked up the ball in the box just 5 minutes into the second half. She twisted and turned around the Bows defence and she squared it across with a powerful enough pass across the face of goal to Roisin Malloy for a tap-in. That made it 1-1. And then for the rest of the game, really, I thought Athlone had a lot of the ball, but kind of similar to last week against Wexford, they didn't have a lot of clear-cut chances. They weren't able to make anything work with it, really. But I think it's a good result for them, given all they went to a team who were kind of in a similar position to them. The conditions were really bad. It's, like I said, it just got worse and worse as the day went on. And they've come away with a point. There's reason to believe that in better conditions and maybe at home they could have gotten a win, but for now, anyways, it's 1-1, their first point of the season and Bow's first points of the season too.
Thank you for that report, Sean, for Diarmuid Park. Of course, that result, as Sean has said, is a good result for both teams, of course, getting their first points of the season. But the weather has been causing an issue all day. Of course, you heard there from Diarmuid, the nets and everything like that. But of course, we've had 2 games that have been called off today due to waterlogged playing surfaces. The game at Treaty United and Cork City called off very early this morning, but a second game between Wexford and Shelbourne at Ferrycarry Park was called off with just about maybe 45 minutes to go to kick off, maybe even a half an hour. Now, our reporter, Sean Crosby, was there waiting for the game to take place, and he managed to get us a short report as to what actually happened.
Welcome to Eamon DC Park. It was a very wet and windy afternoon here, and thankfully now the rain has stopped just for the end of the game. But it was a very disappointing performance for Galway. They fell victim to Piedmont's brilliant play. It was a 4-0 victory for Piedmont. In the first half, Galway started very slow. The two sides started very slow, but they never seemed to get going. They had 2 corners very early on, nothing really made of it. And after 11 minutes, Piedmont, with their corner of their own, crossed in. The header hit off the crossbar straight down at the goal line. I believe Chloe Maloney is claiming the goal, but Stephanie Roach made sure of it and tapped it home, so they'll have to have a disagreement about that one to see who got it. 10 minutes later, 19 minutes on the clock, another cross into the box. Galway defence didn't deal with it. Sive Doyle got the goal after a pass across the box from Stephanie Roach again, and Sive Doyle just buried it into the back of the net. Galway created very little in terms of chances. There was a goalmouth scramble around 24 minutes in from a good play down the Galway's left-hand side. Who was it? It was Niamh Reid Burke wasn't able to get her hands to the ball and dropped it into the square, but the shot was blocked. The sides went in 3-0. It was very wet and windy, so I'm sure they were glad to get in at half-time. Galway started the second half decently well. McKee got a good shot off for Galway. She rattled it off the crossbar, but that, I'd say, was their main chance the whole game. The game, Piedmont kind of sat back after that, and they forced Galway into errors. Galway's pass retention was very poor. We'll blame the wind and the poor pitch conditions, as it was very wet. I'm sure they'll look to that. And 85 minutes into the game, Stephanie Roach stepped up from around 30-35 yards, had a pop shot, and it looped over Leahy Hughes Cohen, in the Galway net to make it 4-0 and just to seal the victory for Peamount. So all in all, Peamount definitely deserved the 3 points, and to be honest, it was quite a poor Galway performance. Thank you.
Now, apologies, that was actually our report from John Nee between Galway and Peamount United at Eamon DC Park. Of course, that game, Peamount United, of course, getting their second win of the season. A big result for them, of course, trying to mount a title charge. Of course, with the Shelburne game not going ahead, that's definitely good for them. Now, it was going to be an interesting game with Galway, of course, picking up a win last weekend, but as you just heard from John there, another strong showing by Peamount. Now, we will try and go back there to Sean's report. Of course, as I mentioned just before that, we were talking, of course, about the second game that got postponed today, which was the game between Wexford Youths and Shelburne, at Ferrycarrig Park. So we'll try and cross now to our piece from Sean.
Unfortunately, today's game between Wexford Youths and Shelburne at Ferrycarrig Park was called off. A fairly waterlogged Ferrycarrig behind me and some fairly windy conditions. The pitch inspection was done just a few minutes ago and the ball wouldn't even roll, so completely unplayable. So postponed this week. Next week, both teams are away. Wexford to Bohemians and Shelburne face Athlone Town.
Disappointing, I suppose, for both teams, where you're so close to kick off and the game was unplayable as a result of that. But we will finish up by going to the game that actually kicked off the action this weekend, which was the game between Sligo and UCD Waves at the Showgrounds. Of course, a first game at home for Sligo this season, their first year in the competition, taking on a DLR Waves team who picked up a strong home victory last weekend against Treaty United. And watching that for us was our reporter Alana Canan.
A Rachel Doyle double supplemented an early Averett Brearley goal to wrap up a tidy 3-0 win for DLR Waves against Sligo Rovers today in the Showgrounds this afternoon, and ensured they went home with all 3 points with their 3 goals. While the Bitter Red were going for the Women's National League attendance record, they just missed out on it, amassing 945 supporters into the grounds for their first ever home game. As I said, Brearley nabbed that first goal early on for Graham Kelly's side and was dangerous for them throughout, as was Sarah McKevitt in particular. But there was also some worrisome news for DLR Waves, as their captain Jess Gleeson was forced off via injury in the first half. They concluded that half 1-0, of course, but then into the second half, then both sides came out all riled up and ready to go, and the tension and dramatics certainly increased. But Kirsten Sample in net was good for Rovers, I thought, as was skipper Emma Hansbury, who clearly showed her experience in the Women's National League. Apart from that, then Gemma McGuinness, Aoife Brennan and Katie Melly were also impressive, but it wasn't to be their day, especially when substitute Rachel Doyle, as I said, came on and she netted that brace. One, of course, was from a free kick. Both sides will take the positives into next week. However, Sligo head down to Cork, while Waves face Galway in round 3 of the Women's National League.
And of course, a big thank you to Alana for sending in that report, and to our other reporters as well who managed to send us in stuff throughout the day. It turned out to be a very quiet weekend in the end, as only 3 games went to go, should I say. Now we will finish off with the results. Of course, at the bottom of your screen there, you will see the results from today. DLR Waves, of course, picking up big 3-0 win against Sligo. The game, of course, between Treaty and Cork, both are being postponed due to an unplayable surface at the Markets Field, similar to their male counterparts last night. Bohemians and Athlone both drawing 1-1, and of course Galway suffering a heavy 4-0 defeat at home to Peamount United. Peamount are looking strong so far, definitely putting in a statement of intent earlier on in the season. And of course the game between Wexford and Shelburne both going. You'll see their National League table just on our website at the moment. Of course, you'll see all the results and everything like that, of course, is on the website as well. We'll have all the match reports as well coming up, and we'll keep on all of that action. And of course, we do have some more fixture lists coming up shortly. Of course, there is games in the Women's National League next weekend. Of course, Peamount United are at home to Treaty. Cork City are at home to Sligo Rovers. Galway take on DLR Waves at 6 o'clock. Bohemians take on Wexford Youths at 6, and Athlone take on Shelburne at 7. You'll all see them at the bottom of your screen. And looking at the National League table, of course, you will see Peamount United topping it. They are looking strong. Hopefully, they can continue that. At the bottom of your screen, you'll also see Monday night's fixtures when our next show will take place. Bohemians taking on Shelburne. Derry take on Drogheda. Dundalk play Shamrock Rovers, Sligo Rovers take on Finn Harps, and St. Pat's take on UCD. All these games kicking off at 7:45. And in the first division, Athlone take on Cove Ramblers. Cork City face Waterford. Galway United take on Treaty United. Longford Town, of course, entertain Bray Wanderers as well. So that is all a fixture list and everything, you'll see the Women's National League table on your screen. Sligo Rovers at the bottom of the table, Treaty United just above them. Of course, Treaty never played today. Cork haven't played either today as well. They sit in 8th. Then, of course, Athlone and Bohemians picking up their first points of the season. Galway and Shelburne bringing up just underneath the top 3 of Peamount, Waves and Wexford. That, of course, is the National League table from the Women's League. And we'll be back, of course, as I said to you, on Monday night, where we'll have action from both the Premier and the First Division, and we'll be back then again next week for more Around the Grounds. Thank you to everyone for tuning in this evening, and make sure to check out all of the action available on our website for full match reports and everything like that. But until the next time, good evening.